Dealing with dangers and difficulties, rated PG. Dealing with dangers and difficulties, rated PG. You know, when you lead in with dealing with dangers and difficulties, rated PG, obviously there's some tall explaining to do. Now, this is my take, so don't hate. You know, I trust this blessed Thursday finds you and yours doing well and staying safe. For the next few weeks, I'm going to be talking about some things pertaining to children and adults alike that I truly believe when it comes to our children, only parents should teach their children, or at least be the first to teach them. And then, of course, others can reinforce those lessons. And I thought I would take this time to explain what I would be doing for the next few weeks and why, and letting you know what to expect so that you can make a decision about whether or not you think it's something that you want to hear and whether or not you want to include your children in these particular discussions. I believe that you know as well as I know that we can at times be too gullible, too trusting, too naive, and way too vulnerable to schemes, attacks, and exploitation, especially our children. Please understand this, that as I lead us in these discussions, all of these are personal decisions. And I'm not here to tell you what to do or what not to do. My goal is to simply present what I believe are some relevant issues and raise our awareness of them and address the potential benefits and consequences of our decisions. Our children need more of our help in deciphering and distinguishing between what's good and what's bad for them. They, as well as we, need help in dealing with certain potential dangers and difficulties in life. I would ask that as adults and parents, that we would deliberately give more attention to and do more to educate ourselves and then our youth on these simple but important issues that can be made more dangerous and more difficult if we fail to address them. If it is true that knowledge is power, and I believe that it is, then lack of knowledge would have to be considered weakness. So there are 5 issues that I want to begin with, and maybe more as we go along as requested or as I am led to do so. And they will likely come in this order. First of all, personal safety. We'll talk about personal safety. Secondly, home safety. Thirdly, gun safety. Fourthly, fire safety. And fifthly, water safety. Also, I want you to know that in the very near future, I will address, among other issues, the controversial question of gun control. You hear a lot about it now. In fact, we've been hearing about it for some time. But before I get into the politics of gun control, I want to address gun safety. So we'll talk about that later. You may be asking, why bother? Why should we be talking about these issues? Are they really that important in the everyday scheme of things? You may be asking, or you may be saying that I haven't had any problem with those particular issues, and I haven't noticed anybody else having any problems with those particular issues. But more than you know, more than you may realize, they are extremely important, and they are very much a part of our everyday life. But unfortunately, usually when they capture our attention, it's under sad and tragic circumstances. I'm a firm believer in giving ourselves the best possible chance at life and living the best and safest life possible. I believe in that. Really, I see it as a mandate, as our responsibility. We owe it to ourselves, and we certainly owe it to our children. We owe it to the next generation. A proactive stance, a proactive action is required. We often find ourselves what I call chasing after trains. chasing trains, where we're left at the station while the train speeds down the track. In other words, we often find ourselves reacting to things after the damage has already been done. Things could have been avoided with just a little knowledge, a little effort, and a little attention to ourselves and to our children and to our environment. Yes, of course, things happen. But there are entirely too many things happening, and that has happened, that didn't have to happen and don't have to happen. And much of it can be attributed to our failure and our negligence in giving proper attention to seemingly simple things that can so quickly impact our lives in a negative way. So I'm going to talk about those 5 issues of personal safety, home safety, and so forth. And just to give you just a preview, personal safety will deal with what we can do to avoid certain things and whom we should avoid. We'll talk about recognizing predatory behavior and understanding the culture, the environment, and the time in which we live. We'll talk a bit about guarding and protecting ourselves emotionally, physically, sexually, and otherwise. We'll include the topic of financial safety, financial stability. We want to teach our children not only how to make money and make a living, but how to invest, how to save, and how to be responsible with our finances. So we'll cover those things when we talk about personal safety. Then we'll talk about home safety, securing our home, creating a safe, pleasant, peaceful environment in which to live. We'll have to talk about, of course, sharing responsibility and protecting our family. And you may be unpleasantly surprised at how vulnerable we are and how many booby traps there are in our homes. Amen. We'll talk about that. Then thirdly, we'll talk about gun safety. And we'll talk about the purpose and the responsibility of gun ownership. But whether you own a gun or not, whether there's one in your home or not, we still need to learn and teach our youth about gun safety. I talk about my position on guns and gun control. And I talk about why I recommend that we do not buy our children toy guns. Why I recommend that we do not buy our children nor allow them to use, play on, whatever video games that involve shooting and killing and violence. I recommend that we do not allow our children to participate in these kinds of things. I'll talk about why I believe that every gun ought to be considered a real gun. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about how certain things can desensitize our children and ourselves to life and to death. Amen. Then I'll talk about fire safety. We'll talk about fire hazards, fire prevention, and having an understanding and escape plan in the event of a fire. Amen. And then we'll talk about water safety. We'll look at why I believe that every child should be taught and trained in water safety and taught how to swim. But even if we never swim, we still need to learn and understand water safety. I mean, for me, among the many things that a child should be taught and trained in, swimming and driving are two of them. Obviously, you don't teach a child to drive until they are of age. But we'll look at those things because I believe that they are some of the silent problems, if you will, that we actually face from day to day. We don't often talk about them again until something tragic happens. So we want to get ahead of the game. We want to get ahead of the curve Amen. And learn about these issues that we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks, as well as I'll be talking about gun control, the issue. But before we get into the politics of it again, I want us to cover the safety aspect of it. But I'll tell you what my position is on that particular topic. Amen. So I'm going to encourage you. I want to encourage you to join us, to be with us for the next few weeks. Just wanted to kind of give you an overview today and alert you to what to expect as we talk about dealing with dangers and difficulties. And these are important issues. Believe me, they are important issues. And again, don't misunderstand me. I'm not here to try to tell you how to run your home, you run your family. I'm just here to talk about some things. Amen. One of my old friends, Reverend Hazel, would always say, yeah, I'm just talking about what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about what I'm talking about. Amen. But everything that I discuss, whatever your view is, whatever your point of view, whatever your opinion is, whatever decision you make, that's your decision. I have nothing to do with that. You do what you think is best. You do what you think is right for you and your family. I'm just going to share some things with you that I know will help you if you'll receive it. Amen. So God bless you. Now that's my take. What do you have to say? Come on, sound off. Thank you for joining us. And if I don't see you on Sunday, I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Again, when we will talk about personal safety. And that's something that I believe we could all use. May God continue to bless you and keep you, my friend, is my prayer.